So, yesterday, there was actually a briefing to the Portfolio Committee on Social Development. And the Reserve Bank's head of National Payment Systems Department, Tim Masela, came to brief the committee about how things are going to work regarding SASA grants. Now, let me just explain, right? SASA grants obviously get distributed monthly.
Yeah.
And in order for them to be able to do so, they need a means of distribution. Back in the day, I remember when my grandmother was still alive. This must have been like maybe 1990. In Mali Mpesheni, people would literally go and they'd queue and they'd get the money in cash. It would come in trucks and the trucks would distribute the money. Now that I think about it, I wonder who's ordering a shine, little man. But that's a different story altogether. I was young. I didn't consider those things. Then let's fast forward when I was older. I remember being at 702 and there was a company called Net One. Right? Net One used to distribute SASA payments as well. And at the time, I think they controlled a large chunk of the market. They weren't a bank. All they were was literally just a payment services. And I think they controlled like 7 billion, maybe even more. I could be mistaken. It was 2016. So 10 billion.
10 billion.
Yeah, so 10 billion in terms of SASA grants and distributions. They then subsequently lost the contract because it turned out that there was just a lot of negativity about a private company benefiting from SASA grants to a tune. They also started giving SASA recipients loans and they're charging them exorbitant interest, etc. and so on. Right? Then what happened after that was there was Cash Paymaster Services.
I remember that one.
A contract that was awarded after them. And that contract was very quickly struck down by the Constitutional Courts because it was deemed to be illegal. And then comes post office / post bank.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you know what? As the government, we own the post office. In fact, we also have post bank. Why don't people just get their SASA grants via that? But by the time it got there, it was no longer the entirety of the contract. So if you're a SASA recipient, you can nominate your own bank. Let's say you've got a Capitec account. You're like, guys, pay me to my Capitec account.
Yeah.
And that happens. So currently, Post Bank controls about 3 billion of these payments. Now, you may be thinking, okay, but what's the big deal? So how these payments work is Treasury gives you the money. Then you have to pay out the money to the recipients. But obviously, you don't do that for free. Let's say maybe you're charging. I'm not quite sure what the charge is. Let's just say, hypothetically, 5 rand, right? I don't know how many SASA recipients we have currently in the country, but I remember a number of about 17 million back in the day. So let's just take 17 million and multiply it by 5. That's how much money you'd be making every month from just paying people, not even with your own money. Mali government.
Middleman, basically.
So you can see it's a very lucrative contract, right? Now that this contract between SASA and Post Bank is going to come to an end, they're going to be looking for a new bank to distribute these payments. And nobody knows who that bank is going to be just yet. Could be Standard Bank, could be ABSA, could be Nedbank, could be Capitec, could be FNB, SASA, right? But the question I'm here to ask you is, do you see how it is that things that are meant to be performed by the government always get outsourced to the private sector, right? So in other words, the failure of government is the profit of private sector. Konamanje, if you see that there's potholes, the people that are fixing potholes, I don't know about your areas.
Private entities.
Bruh. Discovery cars are fixing potholes.
And sometimes government.
Outsurance is busy with traffic control.
Yes. Yes.
Government too, though.
So this is what we say when government fails. All that does is private sector comes in, and it's a lot of money.
And I think if we're being honest, we've spoken about it quite extensively here on the show, that the failure of government is to the benefit of the private sector. But then it begs the question, are we actually going to get to a point where, from a government perspective, we have people that are qualified to be in the positions that they're in? This cadre deployment, it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because you are putting in Umbali because Umbali happens to be my comrade. Not necessarily because Umbali understands the portfolio in which she's going to be doing this. So the more we keep continuing with cadre deployment, the more we're going to have private sector actually gaining, because you're not getting people that are qualified to be in those particular positions.
So, Mbali, how we got here, right?
Yeah.
Is essentially from 2019, the South African Post Office has been in dire straits, right? They got liquidated in 2023. And subsequently, they had to close down a lot of the over-the-counter services. And so, as you can imagine, Postbank is an arm, South African Post Office, and they're not able to carry out their duties adequately now, right? We often speak of needing a state bank. The idea is always that if we get a state bank, people, majority black people, would stand to benefit. But if you look at how we conduct financial affairs, I mean, if we can't even run a post bank, Itala right now is also facing difficulty. Are we in a position to even have a state bank?
I don't know, because also when you look at how Postbank has been operating, I mean, it was really laying the ground for the country to try and at least have, you know, a bank owned by the state, if you could put it that way. But the way that Postbank has also been moving in its trajectory, it's been tricky for them, and it's been quite difficult. But it also brings into the question the issue around, you know, how government continues to get the private sector to come in and save them essentially, but at the cost of taxpayers. And it's quite clear, right? And also it brings in the issue around electricity, IPPs,
postal services.
I was even saying, I mean, the likes of how about DHL, they are surviving, about Postnet, how they are surviving, is because government has been lacking in its services, particularly even the services to the post bank. So yeah, it is quite tricky for government. But at the end of the day, it is to the detriment of taxpayers in the country.
So now here's the thing, Juliet. At SASA, they've actually got a certain amount of transactions that are free. So you make withdrawals, you've got a certain amount of withdrawals that are free. But if you start using a bank, right, like an FNB or whatever, FNB, I'm just singling them out. Every bank does this. But basically, banks will charge you for using an ATM.
So you lose the benefits.
100%.
Although there is efficiency when government does outsource, we see it. I mean, for me, it's the issue of accountability when things go wrong. If I'm taking the example of your Tabo Besta at the Mangaung Correctional Services, because it was outsourced as well, right?
Yeah.
When something like that goes wrong, then who accounts?
You see, now that's a good question. And I suppose what you got to ask yourself is, because Julia's speaking about efficiency, that premium that you pay for getting your money easily, for example, via a private bank, be it a Capitec, a Nedbank, an ABSA, is it worth it? As opposed to if the government just got their act together, you could be withdrawing for free. This is what you got to ask yourself, because now you're paying a premium for the convenience.
Hi guys, we just need to get our ducks in a row.
Give us a shout. Honestly, grant is not even that much. We're talking just hundreds of rands, and now ATM charges. Is it fair?